Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another video for you guys talking about chakra natures. This time we're going to be watching yin release and yang release. Now just like the last two times we did this, we're going to be watching two videos at the same time since each of them is really under 4 minutes long, or not really all that long. So we're going to be watching two of them at the same time, and we're going to be starting with yin release. So let's just go ahead, and I'm not going to waste any more of your time.
So, yin release is one of two nature transformations that have nothing to do with the five basic elemental ones. Its techniques involve employing the energy of the spirit or the imagination, which by extension means that yin release techniques involve the manipulation of intangible ideas or things that don't physically exist. So, in other words, the purpose of yin release is to either give form to things that don't already have it, or to create form out of nothing entirely. The sort of techniques you get when you employ these abilities are weird and abstract. For example, Tayuya is able to create thralls entirely out of spiritual energy, and Shikamaru is able to manipulate physical shadows. I don't know if the strength of 100 seal used by Tsunade and Sakura falls under yin release, but one of the alternate names for it is flat out the yin seal. As a matter of fact, yin release's Japanese name is Inton, and the name of the seal in Japanese is Infuin, which, well, that directly translates to yin seal.
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to make is that the fact that they both have the same prefix hints at a correlation between the two. This is also noteworthy because Naruto specifically asks about medical ninjutsu when Yamato and Kakashi mention yin and yang release to him in response. So if the strength of 100 seal does happen to fall under yin release, that might mean medical ninjutsu falls under yin release.
It kind of sucks because you have Yamato telling Kakashi that, you know, maybe he should tell him about yin and yang some other time, and yet that other time never shows up, which honestly kind of sucks.
Yin release. That might mean medical ninjutsu falls under yin release as well. Of course, the strength of 100 seal is also a sealing jutsu, so that might just mean that sealing jutsu fall under yin release and not medical jutsu, so I don't know. Do with the information what you will. Anyhow, yin release's ties to the imagination and the spirit mean that it encompasses all of genjutsu as well. This isn't me speculating. The second Mizukage, who is essentially the authority on genjutsu, says that genjutsu relies very heavily on yin release. Now, while this would be a perfect time to explain how genjutsu works, it's getting its own video. Trust me, it's definitely complex enough to deserve one. But yeah, all genjutsu falls under yin release, including genjutsu cast with a Sharingan or Mangekyo Sharingan. This might not be the Sharingan's only ties with yin release, though. The manga directly states that Indra inherited his father's eyes and powerful spiritual energy, and since the Uchiha are directly descended from Indra, and they all also have the sage's eyes, it's safe to say that many Sharingan abilities might actually be drawing from yin release. For example, the Susanoo and Amaterasu are both examples of creating form out of nothing, and there are plenty of genjutsu that rely on having a Mangekyo Sharingan. Of course, this is just conjecture, but I did think it was worth pointing out. Now, I know Amaterasu is technically a form of fire release called blaze release, but that wouldn't be the only example of somebody using an elemental ninjutsu and calling it yin release. For example, here's Madara using a technique called Sage Art Yin Release Lightning Dispatch that definitely looks like it should be a lightning release technique, but it's not. I'm not saying I'm right. Amaterasu, in all honesty, probably has nothing to do with yin release, but as I've already said, I did think it was a connection worth pointing out. Unlike the five basic elemental nature transformations, yin release and likewise yang release have no advantages or disadvantages over any other nature transformations, including Kekkei Genkai. They're just sort of like their own thing. Speaking of yang release, I should be tackling it next week in a separate video, so you guys have that to look forward to. But until then, well, if you have anything you want me to talk about in the future video, leave it in the comments below, and if I like it enough, I'll make sure to get to it in the future. As always, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Hope to see you in my next video, and I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
Yeah, so, okay, again, it's a shame that this video is kind of short, but it's not like there's really a lot to really go into, because as we've figured out in some of the previous videos, Kishimoto like introduces these things but doesn't really tend to go into much detail about them, which I feel like he gives you enough so you could have a basic idea of what it is, but doesn't really go into detail about what the ability actually is, what it's capable of, what it can't do. But what are you gonna do? Okay, so that was yin release. Let's head on over to yang release. There we go.
Alright, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna be talking about Yang release. So, Kishimoto really screwed the pooch here because there's, like, nothing in the way of material on Yang release. Barely anything is known about this kind of ninjutsu. Now, I already mentioned Yang release in my last video.
If you've been paying attention, like you should,
Then you'll know that it, along with Yin release, make up two nature transformations that exist outside of the five basic elemental ones. While Yin release involves manipulating the energy of the spirit, Yang release involves manipulating the energy of the physical body. Whether that encompasses taijutsu or not, I don't know, but that is a possibility considering Yin release's heavy connection with genjutsu. As for jutsu that are confirmed to draw from Yang release, well, there's like none. The only ninjutsu in the entire series that are confirmed to be Yang release are the Akamichi clan's expansion ninjutsu and all of the ninjutsu derived from it. That doesn't leave me with a whole lot to work with here. While Yang release is supposedly able to breathe life into soulless form, there aren't any examples of standard ninjutsu that make use of this ability that I can remember. And I definitely don't know how this has anything to do with the Akamichi clan's multi-size technique. So even if I wanted to try and think of some examples of techniques that might draw from Yang release, I'm really not able to. Medical ninjutsu is the only example that I can think of, but I'm really not sure whether it falls under Yin release or Yang release considering everything I said about the Yin seal.
I don't know if the strength of 100 seal used by Tsunade and Sakura falls under Yin release, but one of the alternate names for it is flat out the Yin seal. As a matter of fact, Yin release's Japanese name is Inton, and the name of the seal in Japanese is Infuin, which, well, that directly translates to Yin seal. But the point I was trying to make is that the fact that they both have the same prefix hints at a correlation between the two. This is also noteworthy because Naruto specifically asks about medical ninjutsu when Yamato and Kakashi mention Yin and Yang release to him in response. So if the strength of 100 seal does happen to fall under Yin release, that might mean medical ninjutsu falls under Yin release as well.
Considering Yin release has to do with spiritual stuff and Yang release has to do with the physical body, it's more likely that medical ninjutsu falls under Yang release here. It definitely falls under one of the two, as when Naruto asked about medical ninjutsu, both Kakashi and Yamato responded by mentioning Yin and Yang release. Anyhow, in the same way that the Uchiha clan inherited Indra's natural talent for Yin release, the Senju clan inherited Ashura's natural talent for Yang release. Now, this could mean a whole bunch of different things. If medical ninjutsu is tied to Yang release, well, that could explain why some of the Senju clan's members are incredibly talented at using medical ninjutsu, and I found quite a few forum threads dedicated to the hypothesis that would...
If you think about it, would kind of explain how Hashirama was, like, if that's the case and they inherited like a natural talent for medical ninjutsu, it would explain how Hashirama, who is, you could say, the strongest member of the shinobi, had the ability to just automatically heal his body. Although I think if I remember correctly, I think that was stated to be something that his body does on its own, although technically that wouldn't make any sense because why would he be the only one born with an ability like this and no one else? I mean, you're telling me no one else in the Senju clan showed signs of having this ability of, you know, their bodies just regenerating on its own? Or is it possible that it's a Senjutsu specific technique and only Hashirama is capable of actually utilizing this ability because this ability requires a ton of chakra to use, and since Hashirama is born with a shit ton of chakra, he's the only one that's feasibly capable of actually pulling off this technique without it killing him. You know, just like how the Shadow Clone Jutsu was stated to be a forbidden technique because of the fact that because it literally causes the user to split their chakra and create like clones of themselves. And not everyone has the capability of doing that. Hell, even Tobirama could barely create 4 clones, but some characters like Naruto and Hashirama, who have an insane amount of chakra, would be more like, it would be safer for them to use. At least, again, that's just my hypothesis, but who knows?
Hypothesis that wood release is the result of water, earth, and Yang release all being combined together. This would supposedly explain why Hashirama was the only person born with the wood release Kekkei Genkai, despite how relatively common it would be for people to be born with an affinity for both water and earth release. It's a fun little theory, but nothing concrete. Wood release definitely has some connection with Yang release, as the white Zetsu imbued with Hashirama's cells reacted to the Yang chakra that Naruto's Kyubi mode aura was giving off in a pretty drastic way. Trees started to grow out of all of of them uncontrollably, probably as a result of Yang Release's ability to breathe life into things that don't have it. One final fun fact about Yang Release is that when written out in the form of Romaji instead of kanji, its Japanese name is the exact same as that of Lava Release. They're both called Yotan. I guess this isn't too much of a problem considering I've never heard anybody say Yotan before performing a Yang Release technique, but you know, for characters in the Naruto universe, it might get a little confusing. Anyhow, that's all from me on Yang Release today. Next week, I'm going to be talking about Yin Yang Release, so you guys have that to look forward to. And after that, I'll probably tackle Kekkei Genkai and each individual Kekkei Genkai nature transformation. You know, Wood Release, Lava Release, all those. Until then, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you see when I upload new videos. If you have anything you want me to cover in a future video, leave it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to it once I'm done with all of these nature transformation videos. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Hope you guys had a fantastic Christmas. Love you all to death, and I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
Did we already like that? Okay, there we go. We did. So, yeah, I mean, it honestly kind of sucks because, you know, it's kind of like he mentioned in his video. Kishimoto really didn't go into detail when it comes to the actual capabilities of Yin and Yang Release. I mean, he gave us just like the basics, but that was pretty much it. We still don't know anything about it. And I talked about how he mentioned that there might be a link between Yang Release and medical ninjutsu, since Yang Release has to do with the actual physical body. It just seems a little bit weird to me that Hashirama would be the only one, at least that we know of, who has this ability of his body being able to heal itself from any damage taken. That's why, to me, I think that, and again, this is just hypothesis on my case, maybe Hashirama just got lucky and he was just an exception, maybe. But my hypothesis is that maybe this is actually a Senju technique, and maybe they ended up realizing that this technique uses up a lot of chakra, and if anyone were to utilize it, it could drastically shorten their lifespan, because you know how the body can only replicate your cells a certain number of times. If anyone were, let's say a random Jonin were to use it, it could drastically shorten their lifespan, because maybe it's a technique that continuously has to be fed chakra, and Hashirama was born with just an insane amount of chakra. Maybe that's due to being Ashura's reincarnate, at least I think. And it would make sense why he would be able to use it and it wouldn't affect him, since he could just continuously feed it chakra and it wouldn't really affect him in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, that's just my hypothesis. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, Naruto didn't really have that technique. I mean, his body could heal, but that was mostly because of the Nine Tails' chakra, not because of any innate ability that he himself was born with. I know he has Uzumaki blood in him, but that mostly gives him just a tougher body and a stronger life force. But that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as we know, he wasn't born with any natural ability to heal. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Remember to do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe, not just to my video, but also to Swagkage's vids. And with that being said, hope to see you for the next reaction. Bye for now.